Welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by SportBuff. I'm your host, Tim Capper. Hey, Cliff, how are you for the second time?
Oh, man. Always living the dream, even when it becomes a nightmare.
I swear we've already done this for the past hour. Oh, wait, we have. Oi.
When you talked about technical difficulties on the flight deck account last week, this wasn't quite what I had in mind.
Yeah. I think we know to blame this one on. Not me, not you. Yeah. Got some good things. Talk about the game experience this week. Talk about the game itself, because I think Cliff and I have come to a conclusion on a couple of things, and also talk about some others. But just want to at least mention, just get it out of the way. As everybody knows, or if you don't, you do now, we had a bet going on with MarkCast when it came to the BC Lions game, and we lost. We changed our logo. I chose what I did. We did it through Wednesday, or into Wednesday, kept the logo there because kept receipts, and said we'd only do it through Wednesday. But we held up our end of the bargain. We lost. That was it. But if anybody else wants to do it, hey, why not? Come and do it. We'll bet our logo, I guess, again.
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, it's all about having fun, right? That's what it's supposed to be, is having fun with it. You win, you lose. I mean, it is what it is. So, I mean, like I said, it was fun. But now we're back. We're back. Things are the way it's supposed to be. Nature's healing, however you want to phrase it. On to the next one, as they say.
On to the next one. Exactly. That's right. We are. We're ready for takeoff. So, as we are. Talk about the experience itself this week. I mean, obviously, this was the first game, Cliff, with the vaccine passport in place. And for those of you who may have not checked and seen our social media, the Alouettes did send out a letter to all ticket holders, I think, including yourself too, Cliff, where they told us, what entrance to go in, a suggested time to be at the stadium. I think it worked out quite well. The time that I got there, because I will admit I got there. They wanted me to come an hour and a half early, which I had no problem doing. Some people when we put that on social media made comments that it won't make a difference because people will come anyways and they won't get into the stadium until halfway through the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, and this was their first time trying this vaccine passport out. So I mean, obviously there's going to be kinks to the system, and making sure everything tries to run as smoothly as possible. And I mean, it sounds like by and large things did go fairly well. I mean, given the circumstances, obviously, you're going to have to give the team a little bit of leeway as far as the security checks and the vaccine checks and everything like that. I mean, it's part of the new normal now. If we want to see football games in 2021, this is kind of some of the stuff that we have to deal with. So we, all we can do is our best.
Yeah, and
we're not just us as fans, but also the team as well. Like this is their first time implementing something like this. I mean, it's never going to go as smoothly as one would hope. So, just a matter of patience. And they got through that first game. It's done. Now the next game is not until Thanksgiving in October. So, any sort of hiccups or any sort of flaws that they had in the system, they'll have more than enough time to get that corrected.
I'm hoping. The only thing that I would have mentioned, that I did mention to the team actually in their game survey after the game, was they had anybody who's been to Percival Molson and has entered through the Pine Street entrance. As you know, they usually have a bag check. Then you walk up the stairs, and then they wand you, and then you check your tickets. They had put the vaccine check on the stairs, which I think was a bad thing to do. I don't know how it was with other entrances. I wouldn't think it wouldn't be like the same way, because there aren't really that amount of stairs at those other three entrances that there are over on our side, on this side of the stadium. So I think what they need to do, Cliff, is they need to move it back not necessarily where they do the bag check at, but maybe halfway in between that and where the stairs are. At least that way, I think it make it a little bit more smoother. Because you don't have the team coming through the crowd of people now, during these COVID times and the modifications that they made at the stadium. But yeah, I think that they need to make some modifications when it comes to that. I mean, other than that, I mean, I was there early enough that I was able to check out some of the other stuff in the stadium. I will say happily that the kiosks look 100% better, so props to them. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was done quite well. I mean, there are others some game day, some in-game stuff that I think they finally were able to figure out. They brought back Country Roads finally.
Yes.
After missing for I guess.
Well, the first game.
Yeah, one game. Don't know what they're going to be doing for our touchdowns because we didn't score one. But I think overall it was done quite well.
Do you think that they learned the lessons from the last game as far as like the stuff that we talked about, like the concerns that we addressed after the first game? Do you think that they sort of took that to heart maybe and maybe made the proper adjustments?
I think so. I think the only thing I still think that the music's just a touch a little loud, because if you're having to scream next to the person that you're sitting next to, then the music is loud. I mean, yes, I understand where we are. We're underneath the speakers. It's not the days where the speakers were farther back and they were on poles as you're walking up the stairs. I'm really dating myself by saying that. I mean, maybe because we're under them, but we don't know what it sounds like in the other parts of the stadium. But still, I think it's just a touch loud underneath that part of the of the stands. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think they did fine. I think they did fine. I mean, I think one thing you talked about that you were concerned about was making noise during offense, and
yes,
they did a lot better. Our PA guy, after 2 weeks, after 4 weeks of having however many games, we have 5 games that we've played, you would think that you would know how to pronounce the team's players' names now. I mean, you'd think, but Armando Sewell is not Armando Sewell.
Right, and as I've noted in the past too, like press releases and
Woody Bayron.
Yeah, I mean, they give pronunciations. Usually, it's Media 101 is how do you pronounce so and so's name? Because especially too, if you've got to announce it, then you kind of got to know how to pronounce it. And it's not hard, but like I said, it's just one of those things, I suppose. I mean, it's nitpicking a little bit, maybe, but it's just kind of jarring to hear Sewell as opposed to Sewell. We know bloody well it's Armando Sewell or Woody Barron or Mashadrick Hunter.
Yeah, or Patrick's Lavelles. I actually like that one.
Man.
I actually like that one.
Well, at least I don't call him David Coate, right?
Or Christian Matty.
Oh, boy. I think someone would be run out of town on a rail if you called him that.
Philippi Gagnon.
Gagnon.
Philippi Gagnon. Oh, wow. Yeah. I think
Heaven forbid if Laurent Duvernay-Tardif ever played in the CFL, trying to pronounce that name.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to the point where people like NFL guys are calling him Larry because Laurent is just so difficult, I suppose.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, hopefully, our PA guy, maybe we'll have to email him or something like that and find his Twitter account and say, "What's up, yo?" This is how. Just send them the pronunciation in the tweet. That's all you got to do.
and hope and pray that the Alouettes never ever sign Liram Hairulahu, because that will just twist his tongue. And
it already has. You don't remember? He murdered it.
Did he? It's been so long.
Murdered it.
Oh, look! Last time Hairulahu played in the league was what, 2019. So
he still murdered it.
Fine. Listen, words are hard sometimes, Tim. What do you want me to tell you?
I know. Yeah, I said the game was fun. They did well. They tried to start up. I guess I don't know if it was the fans or if it was them saying let's light up the stadium by trying. They were trying to recreate the lightning bug game versus Calgary from 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it seemed out of place.
Well, and again, this comes back to, as I've said before, you're trying to manufacture that feel-good moment from 2019. Let's not forget, when that happened against Calgary in 2019, the Alouettes were leading. They were trying to protect the lead, and it was a feel-good moment as far... It just happened organically. It wasn't forced. And that's what it has been. Like the past two games, they've been trying to force that feeling, and you can't force it because it comes across as manufactured and fake, and no one's buying it. Let's put it that way.
Just like the virtual ads on the field.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, like that's it. Like I get why you're trying to do it, but the execution's not there. And I'm not saying stop it entirely, but it's just one of those things like let stuff happen naturally. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's just there's a difference, and so a marked difference. People can tell when they're being forced to do something, and this is not the crowd that's going to go along with whatever you say. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Attendance down slightly at 13,591. We don't know if that was a difference because it was so many weeks later, or if the COVID vaccine had any effect, which I think it did. Just to be honest. But I'm trying to remember, Cliff, the game was 2 hours and 39 minutes, dude. That's like a baseball game. I'm trying to remember that the last time the Owls had a game go that quick. That's nuts. I remember looking at my watch and saying, it's 10-9 and I'm out of the stadium.
Yeah, in and out like the burger chain.
Yeah. So, but again, overall it was a good experience. I'm curious to know how it will be for our first day game for Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. But again, hey, they brought back John Denver. Everything's right in the world.
Like I said, nature is healing. I mean, and it sounds so silly. Like, folks, if you've never been to Personal Molson Stadium, you don't understand what that does as far as getting people excited. I mean, the best example would be, for example, in Hamilton. Like, people go absolutely nuts for when they play Sweet Caroline and everybody sings along to it. It's kind of that same feeling in Montreal.
We chant.
Sure.
But mind you, that's done almost, every 5 minutes.
Pretty much. So, I mean, like, that kind of wires it down. But, I mean, like, that sentiment, that feeling that people have. Like, I mean, if you've been to Hamilton, you watch the game there, you know what Sweet Caroline means to them. In that sense, that's what Country Roads by John Denver means to the Alouettes. Like,
Sweet Caroline at Wrigley Field. That's the best example. If you don't know Tim Hortons Field, Sweet Caroline at Wrigley Field in Chicago.
I was going to say Fenway Park in Boston, but
that too.
They seem to have co-opted that as well. But again,
and we have our stuff too. I mean, we have our U2 stuff, which they don't do as often. I mean, yes, I understand we don't play games on Sundays anymore, but still, it's a part of Alouettes lore.
Yes,
since they've been back. I mean, for Christ's sake, they've been back for 25 years. Some things need to stay the same, and I understand that some things have to change. I get that. But
no, for sure. So, I mean, having that little piece of normalcy back, I mean, it feels good. It's definitely good, even if the product on the field doesn't exactly reflect the in-game experience. I mean, it's taking steps in the right direction. That's how you've got to look at it. Yeah. Things don't get screwed up overnight, and they don't get fixed overnight. But to know that the team is taking a lot of suggestions to heart that we've talked about on the show, and like I said, I don't know to what extent they pay attention to us, but we voiced our concerns, and it feels like a lot of them have been addressed and are being taken care of. So that's a pretty good feeling.
For sure. for sure. We'll see how it goes next game. And it's a great way to move into the game itself. I mean, 27-18 was the loss. So there were so many positives, but yet this game, this you would think just by looking at the stats alone, the total stats, that the Alouettes won this game, but no, they didn't. The problem is they couldn't get into the end zone, and there were other issues too, which was hindering them from getting into the end zone. I mean, such a waste of a monster game by William Stanback for a guy to have, I swear at one point, Cliff, that he was averaging almost 9 yards a rush. I mean, he ended up with 7.7 on the per rush on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Such a waste there. Such a waste of. It's funny to say. It's funny to say a waste of a game from David Cote, who tied a team record. With the 6 field goals.
Yeah, 6 for 6, no less. Like no misses.
Yeah. But still, if you throw in one touchdown, this game may be close. It will be even closer. I mean, it was by the end of the third, it was only 17. It was 17-15. Again, the Owls are still in this game, but again.
Missed opportunities. That's really what it came down to. I mean, and settling for those field goals. I mean, it's great that David Cote kicked 6 field goals, but maybe that could have been 6 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Or even if one or two of those field goals became touchdowns, we're talking about a completely different game altogether. And that's maddening, especially, too, at one point, one of those 6 field goals was an 11-yard chip shot.
I know.
I mean, talk about no faith in your offense at that point. But quite frankly, after seeing some of the plays, like there was some outstanding plays, but there was also some absolute dog plays, like just absolutely awful plays. Mm-hmm. I mean, Vernon Adams is a hell of a quarterback when he's on fire, but when he's off, man, is he off? I mean, he was not connecting with his receivers for the most part. I mean, less than half of his passes connected to start with. He just couldn't get into a rhythm. I mean, things were just not looking good altogether. And the few times that drives were succeeding and they were able to get downfield thanks to Stanback's outstanding rushing, the best they can do is come away with 3. And I'm sorry, you're not going to beat a team just with field goals, especially not a team like the BC Lions. They are just too well put together to be beaten only by field goals.
Yeah, exactly. And especially finding out after the game that Michael Riley's lifetime record versus Montreal is 11-3. I mean, come on. I mean, we got to give props where props is due here, though, Cliff. I mean, I guess the CFL, the Lions tied the CFL record for most pass knockdowns in a game with 13, I think it was. But then again, it was also due to the gameplay from Vernon Adams, as you're mentioning before. I mean, 13 knockdowns. I mean, in VA, he was 16-36 for 270 yards. That seems to be a pretty decent game, right? But he had 2 picks. And the problem is that one of those picks was an interception in the end zone. Mm-hmm. And another one was, I think, where they were, was it midfield? I'm just off the top of my head. I know the second one was when he was trying to create a play where he should have just tossed the ball out of bounds or just gone out of bounds. Something to that effect.
Something to that effect, or even taking the sack, which would have sucked, but at least you're not turning the ball over necessarily.
Yeah. Him being out of the pocket, he easily could have tossed the ball out of bounds.
Yeah, and again, it's what he does as far as that Houdini-like ability to escape out of a messy situation, but then once again, it's just a poor decision. Like, it's just, if it's not there, don't force it. Just throw the ball and live to fight another day. And his insistence on trying to make that big play. Like, he tries to live up to that big play VA moniker. And when it works, it's great. But when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. And then you end up with turnovers or incomplete passes and just bad decision making all across the board. I mean, this really was not VA's best game. And it's frustrating because we know what he did a couple weeks ago in Ottawa. He played an outstanding football game, perhaps the best game I've seen out of him in an Alouettes uniform. And then he turns in this performance at home, and it's, quite frankly, it's insulting. I mean, like, it's all well and good to play on the road and win, but your hometown fans deserve a win too. And then you hand in this performance, and it was just, it wasn't there. It's tough. There's just no other way to describe just the feeling of watching him play and watching him. Yes, he'll make one or two outstanding throws and move the chains, but then either you turn it over or the best you can hope for is a field goal. And to me, it was just conservative play calling at best and scared play calling at its worst. Especially too when one of David Cote's field goals was an 11-yard chip shot.
Yeah.
As a result of not going for it on third down when you're third and 4.
Yeah, from the 4. And it's true. It was based out. Gino did drop it on the play prior. He should have had it, and it should have been a touchdown, or at least the first. I know it would have to have been a touchdown because you can't make a. You couldn't make
exactly. And again, he had nothing but real estate in front of him. Like that was a touchdown right there that he dropped. Yeah. Simple as that. And to just settle for a field goal at that point, I mean, that's, to me, as I said, that's beyond conservative. That's playing scared, and scared money don't make money. Yeah. I mean, it's all well and good. You got a field goal out of it, but that was a touchdown. And imagine had they scored the touchdown. I think that really would have changed the momentum of this game. That really would have.
Whether it had been Stanback, trying it with Stanback or trying it with a pass. I mean, go ahead, Cliff.
And Stanback was running all over BC for the most part.
The O-line was doing such a good job.
Are you telling me that Stanback couldn't have gotten those 4 yards and rumbled in for the touchdown? I think he absolutely would have. Instead, you're playing scared. That's really how it came across. Was no, just take the points, take the easy points. Like 11-yard field goal, for Christ's sake. I mean, I'm sorry, that's.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned before, I mean, for the Owls to have almost 500 yards and lose, it's so frustrating. I mean, Michael Riley, again, he only missed 4 passes. Vernon missed 20. And the targets to receptions is the stat itself. I mean, Gino had 11 targets, but only 4 catches. B.J. Cunningham, 10 targets, 6 catches. Dante Absher, 5 targets, 2 catches. Jake Winicky, 7 targets, 2 catches.
And his 2 catches were nice, but I mean that also means 5 of them didn't connect, and that's pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, and 7 to Gino.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, these are his guys. These are Vernon's guys. Like, these are the guys that you expect to make those catches in traffic, or But again, credit to the BC secondary. Like they had these guys well scouted, and they were all over them like a fat kid on a Smartie. Like they had no answer whatsoever. Nice. The Alouettes receivers. I mean, they got like these the secondary for BC. They really got in their grills and stayed put. Quite frankly.
Now I think it leads to what we've really been hinting at is Vernon Adams. And Vernon, when we've known Vernon for a while, and Vernon has been honest with us, and he said, if I do bad, I
yeah, don't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah, rip me if you have to, because it's Vernon. Vernon in his career with the Alouettes has only won. First of all, he's only won 2 straight games twice. That was at the beginning of his career with the Owls, twice. Mm-hmm. And other than that, he's only won more than 2 games in a row after that once. So it's been win-loss, or whatever it's been. It's never been a consistent 4, 5, 6 game streak.
No. And we talk about Vernon. Do you know who he reminds me of?
No.
Hall of Fame quarterback Henry Burris.
Okay. Where are you going? I like that analogy. Where are you going with this?
Let me explain. When Henry Burris primarily was with the Calgary Stampeders, when he was on, he was an absolutely outstanding quarterback. He'd have great games, put up tons of touchdowns, lots of yards. He's won multiple Grey Cups with the Stampeders. I mean, when he's on, he was absolutely outstanding. When he wasn't on, he was horrendous. Terrible decisions, turning over the ball, loss after loss. I mean, when he was bad, he was bad. I mean, it really came down to good Hank versus bad Hank. And I see a lot of that right now in Vernon Adams. You get Vernon playing these outstanding games like he did against the Red Blacks, and then you get these bad games versus Hamilton and BC at home. I mean, it's like good Vernon versus bad Vernon now. Now, again, if when it's all said and done, if Vernon Adams ends up having the career that Henry Burris did, that's amazing, because then he will have helped the Alouettes win a couple of Grey Cups and put together a Hall of Fame career. But at the same time, you've got a quarterback that on any given day, you don't know whether you're going to get big play VA or you're going to get none, as in none touchdowns, none yards, none wins. Like, you got none when it comes to that. So which Vernon Adams is going to show up at game day? We got a game this Friday against the Toronto Argonauts. Are we going to see big play VA, or are we going to see none? And that's the scary part, is that we just don't know. And we won't know until kickoff which Vernon Adams is going to show up on Friday.
I don't understand why Vernon has been such a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing throughout his career. He has the ability. He has the talent. We've seen what he's done. He's made plays out of nothing. I don't, is where, what did Dr. Jekyll do to become Mr. Hyde? Do you remember?
I truly don't. And I've read the book. I've read the book a couple times at least.
Was it a David Banner thing? Or a Bruce Banner thing?
Maybe it's like you wouldn't like him when he's angry.
Exactly.
I mean, you wouldn't like Vernon Adams when he's angry either.
Some sort of gamma radiation. I just don't know where. Again, as you said,
and does it come down to coaching? Because we know that Kahari Jones was not on the sidelines because of his positive COVID test. Ended up being Andre Bolduc as acting head coach. Would Kahari have made all the difference? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I want to believe that the coaching staff that we have in place, they're all professionals. They all know how to win. They're all very talented at what they do. Yeah. One would think between that and between knowing what we can do with Vernon as far as like what he's capable of as a starting quarterback in this league, one would think that they'd at least be able to do something right. But for whatever reason, the offense just really truly wasn't clicking. Or when it did click, it would be like spurts of awesomeness, but then back to square one. Or like I said, you settle for the field goal, which is unfortunate. Yeah, especially too like when you're so close to the end zone and you got a great ground. The ground game was working.
I get that.
Why not run that into the ground?
And maybe we should. And maybe wouldn't have gotten to that point. If Gino had caught the ball and brought it into the end zone, we wouldn't be talking about David Cote's sixth field goal try or whatever it was at that time.
No, and as I said, scoring that touchdown could have made all the difference. It could have absolutely changed how everything went, because if I'm not mistaken too, like after that field goal, Michael Riley threw an absolute bomb to Lucky Whitehead and scored a touchdown. So beautiful. And that really took the wind out of the sails, I think, for the Alouettes at that point.
You can't trade 7 for 3. You can't. Really 3 for 7. You can't do that.
And like I said, you're not going to beat the BC Lions just kicking field goals. And that's not going to happen. You're not going to beat Michael Riley just kicking field goals. That's a recipe for failure all day long.
Now you talk about coaching for the game itself, and just as a note, I spoke with CFL Stats Guru Steve Daniel before the game. That Andre Bolduc he wasn't the coach of record because Kahari is still with the team. So I think it's even more frustrating. Kahari gets the loss while he's quarantining at home. But I look at that situation, and we know how many hats Kahari holds. Mm-hmm. I actually think that was a contributing factor in this game, because I think they have such a good repertoire between each other. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have it with the other coaches, that VA doesn't have it with the other coaches, but he, head coach, OC, and quarterbacks coach. I miss seeing Coach do his dance. I think it's just something that I wouldn't be surprised if that hypes up the team. You have your pregame stuff, and then Coach is out there doing his dance, and I would not be surprised if that was a contributing factor to the way VA played versus BC. Because maybe he does this one play, goes into the sideline, and coach says, coach talks him up, because the offense was playing very well. I said almost 500 yards of offense. The O-line was doing amazing for Stanback. They didn't get away from anything. They just went out and did it. Runs versus passes.
Mm-hmm.
It was a perfect offense, but it didn't equate touchdowns. It didn't get us touchdowns. So
no, and especially with Andre Bolduc being the running backs coach, in addition to assistant head coach, kind of explains why the ground game did as well as what it did. But at the same time, it also makes you wonder, why didn't you stick with that then? Like, what happened? Was it a matter of, VA going rogue a little bit as far as taking over calling his own plays, as far as him wanting to make the touchdowns happen as opposed to Stanback? That's purely speculation, but for Stanback to have so many rushing yards and carries,
and his average 7.7, dude. Oh my God, eight rushes over 10 yards,
and to have absolutely nothing to show for it as far as touchdowns go, as far as actually scoring goes, other than field goals. Like, I'm sorry, you can't put up numbers like that and just take a look at the fact that it is the kicker who did all the scoring.
He was
literally all this.
Yeah, Stanback was more of a beast in this game than he was versus Ottawa. And he had a great game versus Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think you're calling him what it is. I'm calling it, but it's the Jekyll and Hyde, Vernon Adams, and the dude just has to stop throwing into double and triple coverage. That's been a constant. He's just gotten away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And with Ottawa, he got away with it. Gino did what Gino had to do. Pulling in the vibes from his father. Junie Lewis, who played for the University of South Alabama in his basketball days. Gino knew when to go up.
Yeah.
And get those balls. That's he is our deep threat. But the problem, again, drop touchdown.
Or picked off.
Or picked off. So.
No, it's frustrating because, again, this speaks again to, we know what kind of talent this football team has. It's the execution. There's a disconnect somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating because they know what they have to do and they're not doing it.
No.
For any number of reasons. And there's nothing that we can do in the stands either. Like, we just have to hope that they know what they're doing. And I want to believe they know what they're doing. It's just a matter of making it work.
And don't get us wrong. We still have faith in VA.
100%. Like, he is our quarterback and someone that you want to go to war with. Like I truly believe, as I said, like, if I use the Henry Burris analogy, I think VA is the guy that's going to help this team win Grey Cups. He will be that leader. He will be that kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when good Vernon's there, that's the guy you want.
Yep.
But it may mean we have to live with bad Vernon too every now and again. And I guess all we can hope for is to see more good than bad.
Yeah.
And whatever, if it's a mental block or whatever it is that's affecting VA, or maybe it really was just not having Kahari there to remind them just what he can do and what he's capable of doing. It's, as I said, it's anyone's guess as to whether that was the reason why Vernon wasn't who he should be this past Saturday. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens on Friday against the Toronto Argonauts, because that's going to be the key right there, is which Vernon Adams is going to show up on Friday.
Any concern for the Alouettes losing Mari Alford, considering he's been an integral part in the return game? I mean, he's gone. We found out, I think it was confirmed today, that he's going to go on the 6th game for a broken bone in his. Did it say, was it foot? His foot or his ankle?
His foot or his ankle?
Yeah.
I believe ankle though, but. Yeah. Is it concerning? Yes, because again, this was a guy that came out of nowhere and was just absolutely explosive last season for the Alouettes, and even this year, scoring game one against the Elks, scoring that I think it was an 85-yard touchdown return.
It was a beaut.
It was, and I mean, he's been kind of brought back down to earth a little bit the past couple of games, but that's going to happen when it comes to special teams, especially when you know what a threat he is, and now not having him in the lineup is definitely going to suck. I mean,
Who
But
can
now
who can take over for him? I mean, because Taku Lee made his CFL debut on special teams originally. He's the guy from Japan.
yes.
And by the way, he was given so much congratulations before the game, Cliff. I don't know if you saw it or not by his players, but just to be able to say, it was like one of those. I don't want. It's a bad analogy, but I'll use it anyways. It's like one of the Rudy moments where all the congratulations because you got your first start, type of thing.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I again, as far as actual players go, you hope Taku Lee is better than what Rudy.
Oh,
but the player was.
That was the only analogy that I could really think of.
No, that's fine. And again, with him and Darius Pickett, who ended up returning kicks in Alfred's absence this past Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, Darius Pickett, we know what he's done a decent job with returns as well. If Taku Lee can get in there and prove himself, I think that's pretty much how William Stanback basically became who he was. Because don't forget when Stefan Logan got injured back in 2018, it was William Stanback who was on the practice roster for the Alouettes. That's how he pretty much got his foot in the door, was returning kicks in Logan's absence. And look where William Stanback is now.
It's something you've said too many a times, the next person up.
Next man up.
Yeah.
Don't forget too, Greg Reed also has done punt returning in 2019. So he's also an option as well. I could even see now with some of the injuries that have come about, Quan Bray getting back into the lineup.
Yeah.
That's also an option as well as far as returning kicks. So, I mean, it's tough to lose a Mario Alford. There's no question about that. But it's not like the Alouettes are completely hooped as far as able bodies to return footballs. I think, we'll see what happens when the final lineup is written. But I wouldn't be surprised if they end up putting Taku Lee in back for special teams work, including kickoff and punt returns. Between him and Pickett, and maybe even Greg Reed in the lineup, I think of those three, if you were to ask me, I think it'd be any one of those three that'll end up returning kicks for the Alouettes.
By the way, still get a kick out of when they were playing the Super Mario theme for Mario Alford. I love that. I love that type of stuff.
It's the little things, and like I said, we've been a little rough with the in-game experience, like as far as our criticism of it. But when they get it right, man, they get it right.
Yeah, and that's something you can continue. If he just you don't do it every time because he's not going to have a good play every time. But if he does something good, play it.
Exactly. Bring it back to midfield at least. That's fine.
Yeah.
Play it up, and I think he gets a kick out of it too, like the whole Super Mario thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But again, let's see what happens, and we'll talk about it in a couple of minutes here about the Toronto game. Don't forget, we are on social media. If you haven't listened to all of our shows, if you're missing an episode, you can listen to our archive over at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. You can also catch us over on social media, especially on Twitter. That's at AlouettesFLDeck. You can catch Cliffy at CliffyD, and you can catch myself at Repact. That's REPPACT. Also, can't forget about our Instagram account, which I think we keep forgetting about. Same thing with Facebook. They're both at Alouettes Flight Deck. Can't forget the iLily account that we do that shows up on our social media when we're doing the video tweets. I don't know what to call them. The audio tweets. But obviously, and there are those other ways too, Cliff. Besides that, when it comes to all the different social media, the podcast aggregates and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on pretty much every major podcast platform that you can think of, and we're also on YouTube as well.
Yep.
Pretty much, folks, anywhere that you listen to podcasts or on YouTube, just type in the keywords Alouettes Flight Deck. Chances are you will find the podcast there. I mean, it's like I say, I think it's at this point now, I think it'd be easier to list places where we're not listed as opposed to the ones that we are. So any way that you can find to listen to the podcast, folks, by all means, please do, especially when it comes to YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, get us to 100. We have a giveaway. Get us to 100.
Exactly. 100 subscribers. We're giving away something extremely cool. So give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us the good feedback, the bad feedback. Help us improve this show any way we can. As we always say, if you like the show, tell a friend. If you don't like the show, tell us.
Yeah, it's true. Before we talk about the Toronto game and stuff like that, there are just a few things that a few Alouettes news that we wanted to talk about. There are these, as we know, the bulk of the games are coming up really in October and November. That there are usually the flex packs, which you've gotten many a time, Cliff. But the Alouettes are doing something different this year. They're offering a monthly membership to buy tickets, which I think is it's a very unique idea. More unique than that damn fourth quarter, get a cheap ticket, come into the stadium and watch us lose. That's what we were doing back then, by the way. We were losing. So,
yeah. And quite frankly, those things got over like a fart in church. So
nice. But I mean, if you again, limited tickets, you still have, you get the best prices. It starts at $21. You get access to the pre-sale for any playoff games. I think it's a very unique idea. I think it's only because it is, the games are where they are. If not, they would be it would be a normal flex pack. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a very unique idea. At least they're trying to be able to sell tickets. And as I said, if you only are able to do it for October, only do it for October. If you only want to do it for November, which there are the bulk of the games in November, do it in November. So
yeah. I look at it as like a trial period, like to see, like in case you're kind of on the fence as to whether or not you want to become a season ticket holder or not. I think this is a good way sort of to get your foot in the door, sort of try out the product to see if maybe this is something I want to do. Maybe I do want to invest in season tickets for next year and so on. This, I think, is a good way to maybe give you kind of an idea of what to expect as a season ticket holder, kind of give you some of the perks that are involved in being a season ticket holder without making that big time commitment. And if you find that it's working for you, you take the next month and so on. And then you decide, you can decide at that point if you do actually want to make the jump into full-fledged season ticket holder, or maybe the flex pack is still better for you. It's, at the end of the day, you won't know until you try these things. So to me, I think it's just another good avenue for the Alouettes to try and bolster their fan base, trying to offer as many options as possible. I mean, I kind of look at it too as like, just throwing stuff against the wall, seeing what sticks. So, yeah. Give people the opportunity to try it out. If they like it, great. Then this gives them a chance to expand upon it. And if they don't, then they'll go back to doing what works for them. Yeah. Simple as that.
Exactly. There was really only one big transaction. I know you wanted to bring it up specifically, so at least we could talk about it. The Alouettes have a tendency of having a lot of quarterbacks during their preseason roster, but I think you wanted to talk about our newest quarterback that's now on our roster.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting, too, because for a while he was on BC's practice roster, and I couldn't help but wonder if maybe he made the trip to Montreal with the Lions and just ended up staying put. But Shea Patterson, who once played quarterback for the University of Michigan, he is now a member of the Alouettes practice squad. Again, he had a very excellent college career. Didn't quite translate to the NFL. Ended up coming up north, started training camp with the BC Lions, ended up making their practice roster. Never got to see any action. So team decided to let him go, and Montreal picked him up. And now I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that, because, again, I still think VA and Matthew Schultz are the 1-2 punch that's going to take this team to the promised land. But doesn't hurt to see what kind of options are out there. So maybe if Shea Patterson can offer something interesting, we'll see what he can do. And as you know, as soon as you add someone to the practice roster, ultimately you're going to end up deleting someone from the practice roster, in which case this would be the other quarterback that was in camp, Nick Tiano. Have no idea if he was any good or not, because, as you know, we didn't get a chance to go to training camp and see what he could do, if anything. He did essentially stay on the practice roster. I mean, he was good enough to get through camp, stayed on the practice roster, never dressed for a game, never saw the light of day. So, again, we're left to wonder what could have been with him. Mm-hmm. So I guess we'll see now if Shea Patterson can do anything as far as offer, any new insight into the quarterback room as far as his college experience goes, see how that translates to the Canadian game. As far as transactions go, that's about it. Other than Jermaine Ponder, who started the season on the suspended list, has now joined the team and now is on the practice roster. Again, cracking that Alouette secondary is going to be still pretty tough, I think. But if anyone can do it, it would be Jermaine, because he was here in 2019, practice roster as well. So he knows the system. He knows what to expect out of Montreal. That's the thing. If any injuries go down or someone's just not performing, you got to be ready when your number's called. And
right.
if that's the case, then I think Ponder will be ready to step up if need be.
Yeah. It's the CFL can be a place for those diamonds in the rough quarterbacks. So I mean, I think his last and any player, by the way. So I mean, makes me wonder though. With Shea, I think he also played. I think his last actual football time that they actually got on the field, his actual snaps were in the spring league, I think. So, but still.
No, that's it. Like I said, it's never easy going from being a hot shot in the NCAA and then you get to the pros, and sometimes it doesn't always translate, but could just be the system as well. And maybe things will work a little bit better in Montreal. So I'm curious to see what, if anything, he can do for the Alouettes. And I don't think he'll be a replacement for VA or even for Matthew Schultz by any stretch. But God forbid either one of these guys get hurt. Let's see what this young man can do.
Yeah. Wow. Toronto.
Yes.
Wow. Obviously, this is a huge game, especially with us having 3 divisional games coming up, and obviously with the reduction of games this year by 4. These next 3 are important. Obviously, we don't want to look ahead of them going up to Thanksgiving versus Ottawa, but this game is big versus Toronto. I mean, this is a Toronto team that kind of isn't playing like us in a way. Flashes of greatness, win games by a bonked ball, extra point off of the goalpost. But what does Montreal have to do in order to win this game and get the divisional win versus Toronto, get ahead of them in the standings, and get ever that much closer to Hamilton, which they play the following week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one thing you cannot overlook this Toronto team. I mean, very much like Montreal, though, I do find they're very hot and cold. Like you said, they've won games in terrifying fashion, but they've also been blown out by better teams. So you almost don't know which Toronto team is going to show up. You've got Nick Arbuckle, who is a very talented quarterback. He's played Vernon Adams before. Let's not forget in 2019 that big shootout game against Calgary. Mm-hmm. Both Adams and Arbuckle were part of that, and like I said, I liken that match to a heavyweight boxing contest, like 2 guys throwing haymakers at each other. And when it was all said and done, Vernon came out ahead, barely, but he got the win. So he knows how to play against Arbuckle and knows how to win against Arbuckle. But one thing I noticed with Toronto is they've got some pretty good talent, and if they can get clicking, they can be very dangerous. You got guys like Eric Rogers and Devaris Daniels, who also played for Calgary with Nick Arbuckle. Mm-hmm. They've got that connection going. So I think one of the keys for Montreal is they got to be able to shut those guys down. If they can get in their face and just disrupt their momentum when it comes to trying to go deep, because these are both very deep threats.
Right.
They got to force Arbuckle to make mistakes. They're going to have to, essentially find a way to get to him. And as far as Montreal, they're going to have to take advantage of the fact that, let's not forget, there's a new defensive consultant for the Argos in Chris Jones, who knows this league very well, and he knows how to win in this league. But this is his first game as a defensive consultant, sort of replacing the doing a lot of the play calling for the defense.
All right.
I don't know how the defense is going to adjust to having a new coach so quickly. Montreal's going to have to take advantage of that and just get in their face, and they're going to have to set the tone early as far as I'm concerned. Cameron Judge and Hinoc Mwamba, I do not believe are going to be playing on Friday. So that's 2 of their defensive studs that are not going to be in the lineup. Montreal absolutely has to take advantage of that. I mean, they're going to have to, as I said, set the tone early. VA's just got to, he's big play VA has to come and play this game and take advantage of Toronto right now, because
for sure.
when Toronto's on, they play extremely well. If they can find a way just to rattle Arbuckle and just get him off his game, make sure he doesn't connect with his deep threats, that can be all the difference right there. And it's just a matter of the offense has to execute. Take advantage of the ground game. Take advantage of the fact that the defensive front is not going to be quite the same as it should be. Let's stand back, run roughshod over these guys. I think that's going to make a huge difference. If they can do all of that, I can definitely see Montreal coming out of there with a W. But if Vernon shows up and makes the same bad reads, he's throwing in double coverage again and just making the same mistakes that he did against BC and against Hamilton at home, then I think Arbuckle can do just enough to win. And that's what it was. The game against Hamilton that the Argos played, they won on a missed field goal. Did they deserve to win that game? No, but they did just enough to win. And I can see Toronto doing that as well. If Montreal makes mistakes of that nature, they could get the Argos could easily get the W here. So, I mean, these are two hot and cold teams. It's a matter of who wants it enough. Who's going to be hot at the right time? Who's going to have their plan work to perfection?
Right.
That's going to be the key. Whoever wins this game is the team that's going to be the most prepared and able to execute at the proper times.
Yeah, again, it's Dr. Jekyll Adams, please show up.
We want big play VA. This is a perfect game for big play VA. So let's hope that big play VA shows up on Friday.
Is the doctor in the house? Yeah. Again, it's very important these next couple of games. I mean, it's.
Let's not. If Montreal can walk out of BMO Field with a W, they go to Tim Hortons Field the week after and play the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who, again, are a very good team, but also too they've also played some pretty bad teams the past couple of weeks. So I'm not going to take anything away from their play and what they've done, but they've been very beatable as well. And if they can go into Tim Hortons Field and hand the Tiger Cats their first home loss of 2021, that is huge. That would be a huge boost of confidence. Between winning in Toronto and winning in Hamilton, you come back home Thanksgiving for the game that you've been wanting for the past 2 years against an Ottawa Red Blacks team that is, quite frankly, not very good. Yeah, I couldn't think of a better way to finally get your first home win of the season, riding a momentum wave like that. If you can walk out of Ontario essentially with 2 wins, come back home, play a team that you've beaten before quite handily and should, quite frankly, be able to do that again. I mean, that 3-game stretch, that could make or break the season for the Alouettes as far as I'm concerned. God forbid if they can get to 3-0 in that stretch, I think that will do wonders for how everybody perceives this team and just what kind of momentum going forward would happen for Montreal for the rest of the season. Yeah. If they lose any of these games, could make a difference depending on which game they lose. But let's just take things one day at a time.
Exactly.
See what happens on Friday against the Argos. Like I said, cannot take this team lightly. They've got talent. They've got good coaching as well. I think it's just a matter of which team is going to execute their game plan the best. The team that does that is going to walk out of there with the win.
If the O-line can be as good as they were this past week, and if our running game is just running roughshod, then and VA can get it together. Whew.
Well, I think having Kahari back on the sidelines to calm Vernon down, to help make sure that he does what he needs to do. Yeah, they get that ground game working like they did against BC, because we know what William Stanback can do. Oh yeah, and that should take a lot of the pressure off of VA. That way he doesn't feel like he has to make those insane plays and all that. Just sometimes less is more. Like I'd like to see a lot more dinks and dunks even. Like it's boring football, but you know what? It still works. Just move the ball, move the chains. You don't have to make the outstanding play to beat a team like Toronto. Just work your plan. You've got a great running back. You got a talented quarterback. We know he's talented. It's just a matter of being able to execute. More than anything else, is just execute. Work your plan, and you'll come out of there with a W. Simple as that.
Yeah. We still are planning to have a talk about the 25th anniversary since the Alouettes have been reborn Little things have gotten in the way, but still, we're still planning on having something because the past 25 years have been very integral part of this franchise. I think what many people remember the most currently, considering who's been involved. But so stay tuned for that. But other than that, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please, just add us, please. We want to know what you guys think.
I say it all the time. Like, this is your show too, folks. I mean, if you're happy with what you're hearing from us, tell your friends, tell your family. If you're not happy with what we have to say, or what we're doing, tell us, because we won't get better unless we know that if something's wrong, you got to let us know so we can fix it.
Exactly. And by the way, I still have to give a quick shout out to our, we're still trying to get ourselves another giveaway from our presenting sponsor, SportBuff. A big shout out to Chris and Gary over there. Support Canadian businesses. Go over to sportbuffshop.com. They have everything, CFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, which is coming up, the NHL. They even got MLS, so they have a whole bunch of stuff there. Just go ahead and check them out, see if they're running any current offers. But they got some pretty cool merch, considering even stuff that may not be on a shop. We've seen some stuff that are not currently on CFL team shops. So
exactly, there's stuff that's exclusive to SportBuff. So make sure you check them out. Check out the website. Like I said, great products, great service. I mean, the shipping is fast as well. So I mean, like they want you to get that swag and make sure that it's on you for game day. So by all means,
and in my opinion, a Montreal icon.
Yeah,
up there 100%. And up there with Schwartz. I don't if people are thinking that I'm nuts, but up there with Schwartz's, up there with Dunn's. To me, they are, the name SportBuff in Montreal is iconic. If you've been around long enough, you'll know them. So it's
exactly they're a part of the fabric here in the 514.
Exactly. So Cliff, dude, good talking with you, man. I mean, it wasn't the best game, but I mean, I think it's again, we haven't lost faith in this team. I know we are we're on our way. I think we will.
Well, here's the thing. All the things that we saw this past Saturday, a lot of them are correctable mistakes, and a lot of them are just bad circumstances, and sometimes those are hard to get over. And I really want to believe, now that we've got Kahari back on the sidelines, I think VA, to his credit, he owns up to his shortcomings. He makes mistakes. He says it's on him. I've got to do better. I got to do better, and he will do better. I truly have the faith that he is going to do better. I think now it's just a matter of, we know he can be better. It's all up to him now. As far as I'm concerned, he can right the ship.
Yeah.
And I know he will right the ship.
Yeah.
I think now it's just a matter of opportunity. And I think he's got a great opportunity this Friday against the Argos. I think I feel confident in the way he plays against this team. I think he'll get his act together.
Yeah. It should be fun.
And if that's the case, then we're walking out of there with a W. And maybe this is what turns everything around.
Okay, fingers crossed. Big game, Eastern Division game this week. So we will be back next week to talk about what happened in Toronto. Hey, make sure you join us. We'd love to have you with us. So everybody here at Alouettes Flightdeck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. Run Final Approach.